Hey guys, this is the Tea in Tokyo podcast, episode 23. My name is Sonia.
And I'm Ellie.
And what did we do this week?
So this week we went to the Aquarium, and we also start planning our trip for Nagano.
Yep, that and a little bit more coming up right now. Alright, we've been keeping pretty quiet in June so far because we've been wanting to make as much money as we possibly can by working a lot.
Well, not just that, right? I feel like we've been pretty quiet because we're aware of coronavirus still being pretty big in Tokyo, but because we're also going to work, it's kind of like, I feel as though by going to work every day we're using up our public transport quota allowance versus risk of catching coronavirus, so I'm less inclined to go out and about.
No, I haven't thought of that at all.
Oh man, that's my logic behind this.
Yeah, but you actually have days off though, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I don't have a day off at all. So yesterday I had my first day off this month. So out of 30 days I'll be at work 29 of those days. So because yesterday was my only day off this month, we thought, okay, we actually need to go do something. But if I had more days off, I'd 100% be gone doing more.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe that was just how I justified it to myself, to justify how we're doing nothing. I was like, we're protecting ourselves.
I think if we're going to get coronavirus, we've already gotten it.
I don't know, who knows?
Man, I'm still so shocked by the fact that coronavirus numbers aren't bigger here.
It's because they are, Although I was talking to my mum on the phone yesterday, and she was saying that she was looking at a report on Japan's average death expectancy right now.
Yeah. And
according to that, the death numbers at least are within what they're reporting is true.
Does wearing face masks really make this big of a difference, it turns out?
Although I suppose it does in terms of everyone wearing a face mask. It's one of those things where it kind of becomes not obsolete, but obviously way less effective when not everyone's doing it. Because it's only effective if everyone's doing it.
I think this is the perfect case study for why people should be wearing face masks, it turns out.
Yeah, because it's pretty crazy that for Tokyo being such a hugely densely populated city where majority of the workforce relies on public transport, that they've still only got around about 40 deaths per day.
It's not 40 deaths, it's 40 cases per day.
I thought it was 40 deaths per day.
Nah, the deaths haven't really gone up at all.
Really?
Yeah. Today, the last couple of days, it was 55 cases. That's it.
I thought if it got over 50, they had to declare a state of emergency again.
I had a client today who was talking about how he was worried that cases are going up here again because of the fact that we're on 50 for the last couple of days.
Which is actually true. Last week it was 40 for the last few days.
Yeah.
So that's an increase.
Yeah, which is extremely low for a city where the city center has 13, 14 million people. Especially when you compare it to the United States, where some cities have, 4,000 or 5,000 cases a day.
But it is pretty well known as well that in terms of case numbers, they're not testing everyone who reports symptoms.
Yeah, actually, it's hard to know how important wearing face masks is to the numbers, just because, the counting isn't the same, is it?
Although, I mean, like I was just saying, like my mum said, the fact that their deaths aren't actually any higher than what you'd expect from coronavirus being here with the numbers they're reporting must show not necessarily that the actual numbers are right, but something about the population has been done right. I suppose they have a really low obesity rate.
Yeah, true, because I heard that today, Houston in America, their hospitals have officially reached 100% capacity. So I feel if that happened in Tokyo, you'd know about it. So I guess there has to be something. Yeah, so yesterday was my first day off, like I said, and we went to Shinagawa Aquarium. So it turns out we're actually, we live in such a nice place, and we've said before that we really like the location that we live in. We were mostly saying that because we live close to the city, we have so many supermarkets by us, it's not very busy, so it's pretty quiet. We live
close to the city while also being close enough-ish to Yokohama to make day trips and stuff.
Yeah, and we're only a 16-minute walk from the bay and the aquarium.
Yeah.
So we just walked down to the aquarium with a couple of friends.
Although this made us
And-
confused because it's called Shinagawa Aquarium, but it's like a 50-minute walk from us in Amori. And it's like in
Yeah.
Amori. So like, then we were like, man, is that area like just being eaten by Shinagawa?
Yeah, well, I've never understood that because right next to our station in Amori, there's a giant sign. Like, as in, and by giant, I mean like almost like the Hollywood sign. And that says Shinagawa, you know? So I feel
have
like
never noticed this
I feel like
giant sign.
maybe it used to be Shinagawa, and then they realized, you know what, we need to cut this place in half and then make it otaku or something.
I think it's probably more just that Shinagawa is like a more well-known business area, so it's one of those things where businesses are gonna like want to be associated with being in that area as opposed to being associated with being in Amori.
Yeah, true, probably that. So yeah, so the aquarium, we didn't really have any expectations going in. It was kind of just something easy to do on our day off, something fun, something close by. And on the way there's like the aquarium advertisements all over our train station, and it showed like dolphins and stuff, and I had no idea that it had dolphins. So I was thinking, oh man, this place must be way bigger than I was expecting it to be. And we got there, and there was construction happening all around it. So obviously they're trying to make it even bigger.
We're assuming it was construction for the aquarium. It did kind of look like they were
definitely
expanding
is.
it.
Yeah.
So we had to like follow all these like detour signs to find the entrance.
Yeah. So it was like 1,500 yen per person to get in. And I mean, yeah, it was okay. I would say...
Honestly, okay is like probably the perfect word to describe it. Like, it wasn't terrible. It definitely wasn't great. But it was an all-right experience. Like, there was parts that were like sad and parts that were totally all good.
Yeah, so people always said that because the zoos in Japan are kind of notoriously terrible, and compared to Western zoos in terms of the living space of the animals.
Yeah, like the quality of life, the stimulation that they're giving the animals.
Yeah, but people kind of said, well, the aquariums are different here. Like, the aquariums are actually really good. So we had already decided that we didn't want to go to any zoos because we were like, we don't want to see some sad lion just like standing on a bunch of concrete.
Although, one of my friends told me the other day that the Ueno Zoo is like terrible for that exact reason, but it's good in terms of it's a good example of a historically accurate zoo because that's like a really old zoo, so that's legit what they used to look like.
Yeah, but why do we want to have
I know, which is
historically thing?
Yeah, but I mean, that's like the logic behind that one still being popular because it's like an old school one.
Yeah. Well, we can just see it from outside.
Yeah.
We're thinking, okay, cool, so this aquarium, it's probably going to be really nice. It's probably not going to be anything like the zoos. And then we got in, and actually, at the beginning, it was kind of like that, because the first couple of exhibits were really nice. They were, like, smaller exhibits, and it was, like... it was actually a goddamn snake, first of all, so we didn't expect that for an aquarium.
Yeah, I don't know, although it was almost, like, the exhibit was too small for my comfort. Like, they were pretty tiny spaces, but I'm guessing those creatures don't need that much space or something.
Yeah, they probably do, but... The snake was drinking water, though, which is kind of nice. We've never seen a snake drink water before.
Yeah. I was kind of like, is it trying to drown itself? Because its whole head was sort of, like, half submerged. But no, then its tongue was, like, flicking out.
Oh, actually, I was going to say at the very beginning there was nothing, like, that sad. But then I remembered it was, like, it was a fairly small enclosure kind of thing where they had turtles and fish and stuff. But it was kind of big enough for the fish and turtles, so that's all good. But then above them they had, like, a duck. Or two ducks.
Two ducks, yeah.
Yeah, there were two ducks. And it was, like, they were just normal ducks that you can see outside.
It was 1 meter by 2 meter width, probably, around about.
Yeah.
Like, enclosure with, like, a tiny bit... Like, the ducks couldn't fly or anything. So it would have been a great size if it was just the turtles and fish, I reckon.
Yeah, I feel like the ducks were there by accident. Like, they kind of just flew in. Because it's funny, because there was no proper wall. Proper ceiling. The ceiling was just, like... like a net.
Yeah.
So I feel like the ducks just kind of landed in there and they were like, oh, sweet, let's just put
well,
that.
This will make a good enclosure.
yeah, they'll make it seem more natural and shit, so they just went with it. So that was kind of sad. But, apart from that, it was pretty good at the beginning. We saw a couple of, like, octopi, some coral, stuff like that. All good. But then, like, the main animals that they had there. So they actually had a pretty good variety of animals.
No, but going back, not even the main animals. There were some small things, which is what I mean when I say it was, like, okay.
Yeah.
Because even at the beginning, it was like, for example, they'd have like this enclosure that was like a decent size, but then they'd put, I'm guessing what happened is that fish that they'd put in there were ones that normally lived in shallow rock pools or something.
Yeah.
So it was like, these guys had these huge enclosures, and then they were using like 1/10 of it at the bottom of the water, and the rest was just empty air.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, why not give this space to something that actually wants the space, rather than like later on they have like fish in tiny enclosures?
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that was like, I don't know, it was like poorly planned almost.
Yeah, I think they were trying to make it look like a rock pool, but yeah, again, you don't really need that kind of space. You know, a word that I taught like all my students today, because I was talking about the aquarium with them, was aesthetic.
Oh yeah, I love teaching that word. Do you know how to spell it? Because
I do, yeah, because I was like, but I realized that the way we say aesthetic is not the way that it is pronounced on dictionary.com. So I feel like maybe we pronounce it different to Americans, because they say aesthetic, like E, whereas we say aesthetic, like
I don't
A.
trust America's pronunciation though.
Yeah.
I feel like, that's not correct English.
So, I kept bringing up that word because, man, the aesthetic sucks.
Yeah.
Like, they're really bad at just designing an enclosure. And when we were in there, I kind of mentioned it where I was kind of wondering, man, what is it with just Japan in general and not being able to design things very well? Like, everything's very ergonomic. You know, it does its job, so that's awesome. And it does it well. Like, it does it super efficiently, But in terms of, just in terms of, like, beauty.
Yeah, like these rock pool ones.
Missing.
They had, like, the bottom half was, like, looked like a rock pool, like fake rocks and stuff, and the fish swimming around. And then for the top half that was meant to represent, like, the view, the sky or whatever, it was just, like, painted blue.
Yeah.
Like a dark, not real blue, and then, like, a little average drawing of, like, an island in the distance or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, I feel like they could have done a lot more if that's the look they were going for.
Yeah. And I really noticed that for the big animals. So, like, the main animals that they have here are penguins. They have 2 tiger sharks. They've got dolphins, seals, and a sea lion as well. And basically all of those animals' enclosures are just... It's basically just them in a swimming pool.
Oh, that poor sea lion. The sea lion one was doing that thing that, like, animals do when they're going crazy. Like, it was just pacing in the water.
Yeah,
because it had like this narrow, long, not even that long. Like its length was like 3 or 4 of the sea lion's bodies.
Yeah,
like a pool with like a little rocky bit at the back that it could go up to, and it was just swimming backwards and forwards, like angrily and sadly. Those are the emotions I'm going to project onto it.
Yeah, when we walked in, they gave us like a pamphlet thing, and they said that there weren't any shows today, but then we saw that there was actually a dolphin show happening. At least we assume it was a show. Like, they were doing tricks and stuff, so surely it had to be a show. I'm guessing
it wasn't a show, but it was just that they couldn't just let the dolphins or whatever not do that for months and months, or else they'd forget how to do it, and then when they opened up properly again, the show's not going to be going well. So it was basically like just to maintain their skill.
So I don't think I've ever seen a dolphin or like a killer whale show before. So I think that was the first one ever. And like they didn't really do much. They kind of came out of the water. It was
pretty impressive though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, true. They came out of the they would like come out of the water and then like be on land for a while, kind of.
And it was kind of funny because you could tell that they'd been trained well to do that in terms of like they knew that's how they got treats. Because, like, at one point they were, like, ending the show and they were trying to get them back into the water, and one just kept on, like, jumping up on the side and kind of, like, whacking them with its tail, being like, feed me. And they had to sort of, like, shove it back into the...
Yeah.
So that was, like... The seeing that made me be like, all right, like, at least the dolphins are, like... I don't know if playful is the right word, like, a mix between spoilt and playful.
Yeah, I mean, all those animals are kind of spoiled, but just when it comes to food, right? Like, even at SeaWorld, I feel like in terms of food, they have everything they want. It's their habitat, which is the worst thing. Yeah, like, we were going to take a video of the dolphins, and then we were like, you know what? We don't want to advertise this. Same thing with... The one that I think I found where it was the saddest was the penguins. Just because... so we've been to... In Auckland, there's this place called Kelly Tartans. And actually, in Christchurch, we have penguins as well. And, man, they have a really, really good enclosure. In that
compared to this one.
Yeah, it's like negative 20 degrees.
It's huge. They've got massive land space and also massive water space with like lots of like different ways for like them to get stimulation. Like,
and there's snow everywhere. It's made to look exactly like the natural habitat, and it's great. They love it. And I know that not all penguins necessarily live in snow. Like, some of them do live in like warmer climates, but still, like, these penguins were literally in concrete with like a little bit of water to swim in, and then like little holes for them to kind of call a home. And they just looked kind of sad. And also, like, to cool them down, there was one fan. Like,
there was 2 fans, but only one was going.
Yeah, like literally one that you would just buy at an office max.
Yeah.
Like just spinning, keeping them cool, and I was like, oh man, this is sad ass.
I think for me it was just mainly sad because it was such a small area.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. It was like they'd kind of put effort in, like they'd given them these fake rock areas. They were clearly well fed and stuff, but it was like there just wasn't enough space for it to be like quite so satisfying as, for example, like Kelly Tardens in Auckland.
But man, I just don't understand if someone, like, I really want to read an article on this or something. Why is it so hard in Japan for people to just design things better? Like, websites are crap. These are crap. Like, what is that?
I had a student who was a website designer.
Yeah.
And I didn't exactly say Japan websites suck. But I did ask, I was like, why is it that the appearance of websites in Japan is so much busier and not as, like, clean looking as, for example, and I showed him a couple of like popular websites in New Zealand, and he said, he was like a young guy, and he said that he totally agreed, but the problem was, because the way Japan work culture still largely works is that you don't hire necessarily based entirely on skill. You do initially, but to get promoted, it's all about how long you've been there. So the people at the top have been there for like 30 years, and they're not necessarily actually very good designers, but they've like earned their way to the top. And so he said that he'll sometimes be like designing a website, and it will be like really nice, clean, aesthetic, and then his boss will come along and be like, ooh, needs a lot more text. You need to give their idea of like aesthetic is to give the information, like give the viewer all the information immediately. Whereas that doesn't really line up with sort of like the modern minimalist ideals,
Yeah.
So he was like, as a designer, like a Japanese designer, he knew exactly where I was coming from, but he's like, basically he was saying like, it's just not going to happen until like 30 years time, when the people in his position have like worked there long enough to be at the top and the other ones have retired. That
made me think about all the examples that I can think of where like design hasn't really gone into it. Like, for example, we always say this when we see a playground, we're always like, man, it's so sad just seeing a concrete jungle playground, right? Where it's just concrete, and then the slide or whatever just being plopped on top of it with no regard for like the surrounding area.
Yeah.
And whereas
but
like
it's
in
like
New Zealand,
you were saying, it does its job. It's efficient. It's got all of the bits. It's got a slide. It's got a swing. It's got, I don't know, like a little play gym thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then also like next to our work in Shinagawa, it's like a park area where it's just meant to be a nice place where people can kind of sit down during their lunchtime and eat food and stuff. And the grass hasn't been cut at all, so it's like pretty long grass and stuff. And and I was kind of thinking that's the same thing where it's like, hey, listen, this is a nice place for you to sit down. Who gives a shit about the grass? Whereas it's like, it would be so much nicer if you just cut the grass.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we see so many people having like really random jobs here, Like, for example, the other day when I was walking down our street, I saw 6 people directing traffic. And they're all spaced 1 meter apart, directing traffic the same way. And we've kind of seen examples of this in Japan where they kind of just give jobs to people.
Whereas we've noticed it's always like older people as well. So I think it's like kind of cool because it's definitely they're doing something to keep like the older population like occupied and busy and also have an income.
Yeah. So I was thinking, man, get a couple of these people cutting some grass somewhere, honestly.
Yeah. It doesn't really make sense, eh?
Yeah.
It's like if they've got that many people directing like... Because like, for example, like in heaps of buildings, I think I've mentioned this before, in heaps of like businessy buildings near the garage basement, there's like a person working at every one, and like instead of just having like a flashing light that lets you know when a car's coming out, the person will like be standing there and waiting for a car to leave.
Yeah.
And then they'll like stop traffic or stop the like foot traffic temporarily while the car leaves, instead of just having like a sign being like car coming, So like, why do they need like 30 people on one street doing that when they could have them cutting the grass?
Yeah, but But yeah, the reason that relates to the aquarium...
Yeah, sorry, I got off track.
I feel like they could have just put some sand at the bottom of these things and it would have looked a lot
Yeah,
better.
like that's all they needed, was they needed just to
Yeah.
have a little bit of, like, natural texture going on.
Yeah. Oh, you know, two other ones that I found kind of sad was one of the earlier exhibits that we saw was sardines. And you know how, like, sardines go in groups, right? Like, if one moves somewhere, they all move somewhere. They had, like, a cylinder tank, and the sardines were just going round and round and round in circles. Like, to the point where it looked like they were in a washing machine.
Yeah.
And the water were, like, they were being forced to go around circles. But that's just kind of what sardines do. They always move.
I was looking at the brochure they gave us before, and it actually talks about that. Like, that's the point of that one. One of the things that's advertised here is... schooling fish witness the mesmerizing beauty of schooling sardines and other fish. They swim without rest. Which is true. They were swimming without rest.
That's
it did what it
damn
was
true,
on.
yeah.
Although I also suspect that they then, like, feed those sardines to the dolphins. and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I imagine that's their entire life cycles happen in that tank, just going around in circles. Like, they have babies
Yeah.
in there and everything. That one was, like, almost hilariously funny in its crapness. Man, yeah, we're English teachers.
Yeah.
And at the end, also, so just as you're heading out, there are two massive tiger sharks. Like, they're
So you
probably the
figured
biggest.
out they were tiger sharks.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're honestly probably the biggest sharks I've ever seen, apart from like a whale shark.
They were in the tiniest tank.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with, I didn't think the tank was that small that like you thought.
For them, are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah,
it
true,
was
they're
like
massive, yeah.
it was like their body length 3 times, maybe 4 times.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they were pretty big. Like in terms of, they were probably like 3 meters long or something.
I don't know if it was 9 meters long. The tank.
How long do you think?
I don't know. I'm really bad at like measurements and distance.
Okay, fine. Maybe they weren't 3 meters. Maybe they're like.
I think
20.
that was an exaggeration. I think their tank was like 6 meters, and they were like 2 meters.
Actually, I don't know. I feel like they were pretty goddamn long, man.
Although the other thing is we're really bad judges of like how the glass they use in those tanks is like magnifying,
Yeah, yeah.
and you can figure it out because sometimes when it's like it's got like a right angle, and the fish will like swim past and then it like disappears temporarily because it's like this illusion, like, and then it will suddenly like pop up like at
Yeah.
a different place, like right up, and you're like, wait, where did that fish go? How did it get there?
Yeah, I've realized that I don't understand anything when it comes to optics. I just don't get it. The same thing happened when I was in that cylinder tank when I was looking at that shark. I had my phone out, like waiting for it to come around, and then when it like went around, it just disappeared. I was like, what the hell? How did that even happen? It's a cylinder. I can see through it. Like, you know?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, god damn it.
But that's why I'm
need to
kind of like,
know
I'm
that.
questioning how big they were.
Yeah, but you know how I measure anything in life is through basketball hoops, because that's what I know. So a basketball hoop is 3.2 meters. I feel like if you put that shark,
No way!
bam, if you put it upwards, what, you don't think it would go from the bottom to the basketball hoop?
No way.
You don't think it would?
Maybe like a kiddie basketball hoop that you had in like your driveway.
Holy crap, nah, I thought, man, you're the one saying that the tank is small, and turns out you think these sharks are tiny.
Yeah, the tank and the sharks were like, the sharks were pretty big, but I don't think they
Wow.
were that big. But
okay.
like, regardless, like they were the saddest looking sharks I've ever seen.
They had a big rock in the middle.
A big fake rock
yeah,
right
big
in the middle.
fake rock.
And then the whole rest of the tank was just painted blue.
Yeah. Like, honestly, how hard is it, right? Put a crap ton of sand at the bottom, rocks,
Yeah.
put some fake, actually not fake, put some real coral in there, a couple of plants, like some kelp or some shit. How hard is that, honestly?
I feel like there was one point where there was like a tunnel, you know, one of those tunnels where you go underneath the aquarium
Yeah.
part, so you see like all the fish on top of you. And that was the best design part there, because I felt like the ground of the tanks there was like
Yeah, that was pretty good.
made to be aesthetic looking.
Actually. Yeah.
So,
Oh, and that one had a big ass turtle.
yeah, that one had like turtles and stingrays
Yeah.
and stuff. And like that was my favorite part because I felt like that was the biggest tank with the most like effort put into it, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
It was like the only part I didn't feel very sad at.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that was kind of our aquarium experience. I don't know if we'll go to another one. Although apparently the one in Osaka is really nice, but
Yes, they're saying the one in Osaka has like is mainly like a tunnel thing.
yeah.
So I don't know, it was just one of those things where I'm sure that you could totally enjoy it if you were less concerned about like the welfare of the fish.
I feel like we probably won't go to aquarium again, but I feel feel like there's kind of no reason for us to go to an aquarium or like a zoo, because we're literally in a new country that has animals that we like would not see naturally in New Zealand. You know, there's a million opportunities to go out and actually see them in the wild.
You know, I think that's a part of why it's sad when it's an aquarium and it's like animals that you've seen in the wild. Like the seals, it was sad because we've seen them in the wild where they have like the entire ocean. So it's like, it's extra sad because you've seen what their natural habitat is like. Same with like a zoo. I'm happy to go to like a zoo that's like a zoo that is also like for conservation, and they've got like, if they've got big habitats for them, and it's like, you know that it's like a breeding program or whatever for to be released into the wild for like endangered species. But in this case, it was none of those things.
But next month we might have a chance to go see some animals in the wild, because we've actually planned our first outside of, like, proper outside of Tokyo. We've been outside of Tokyo technically before, but our first proper outside of Tokyo trip to Nagano.
Did we mention this last week? I feel like we mentioned
I think we said we were going to go somewhere, but I don't think we said Nagano specifically.
okay.
I think that was our number one on our list, but we like literally just bought accommodation just a little bit ago. So yeah, we're going to go to Nagano. We're going for a whole week. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's like turns out Karuizawa is like a kind of an upscale mountain town.
it's like a resort town.
Yeah. It's like 1,000 meters up, which I didn't realize. So we're going to be up in the mountains kind of thing. Some really nice forests, some nice walks to go on.
So
yeah,
it's
I'm
like,
really looking forward
it's
to
a popular place for skiing in winter.
Yeah.
And then it's popular in the summer for people from Tokyo to go to escape the heat. Because it's in the mountains. So
Yeah.
it's like cooler.
Yeah, we haven't really planned it out too much.
Says Sonia. I've planned out each day so far. As in, I know exactly which things I want to go to that are there.
Like what?
Okay, so first day. There's three main things there.
In Karuizawa.
Yeah, in Karuizawa. Then there's obviously a bunch of others. But the three things you want to do...
Literally, we'll leave Nagano for another day, but yeah, let's just go through Karuizawa.
So the three things that you mainly want to do is that it's sort of like famous for, excluding the fourth thing being onsens. We're not ready to get naked in front of people yet, so like we're going to exclude that.
That doesn't have anything to do with why I'm not doing it. It's just because
For
it's
me,
summer.
that's why I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it's literally summer. It's gonna be hot as hell.
In Karuizawa, there's a famous waterfall. Now, I apologize if I'm saying it or I've forgotten the name. It's like Shirato, something along those lines waterfall. And it's like it's like the string waterfall, because it's like you walk right up to it and it's like a pool of water, and then a really like, it's not a tall waterfall, but it's got heaps of width. Like a really long waterfall where apparently it looks like, you know, white strings falling down. And it's become popular lately because apparently, like, on the reality show Terrace House, some couple has a date there or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so that's meant to be pretty cool, pretty easy to get to, like, you know, very aesthetic. That's what you do in Karuizawa. The other thing is they've got a famous, like, Ginza shopping street. Like, you know, a big long cool street where you can get all like old school shops and also modern shops and stuff. And then there's also a viewing platform called like a Sui platform or something, where you're like 1,200 and something meters up, so you have like a really good view of all the mountain ranges around
cool.
you.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the three main things. But then there's also obviously like, this is an area with like a bajillion hiking trails.
Yeah.
So there's also other stuff to do.
Sweet.
But yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. Yeah, the other day when I was at work, I was talking to this girl, and she was talking about how she wants to go to like all 47 prefectures in Japan, and it really got me thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? That's something that we can kind of aim to do. So yeah, so we really want to do that, and Nagano is one that we haven't been to yet. So once we go to that, we'll be, you know, that's 5 down, just 42 left to go.
Yeah, I mean, like the first half we're just us two, and then we've got like a friend, possibly friends. One of them isn't sure if she can come yet, joining us in Nagano. So it's going to be good, because it will be like, you know, we can have the romantic coupley trip in Karuizawa, and then like just like a normal fun trip in Nagano.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. So we're been back at work now for pretty much the whole month now. We're like, the day is, it's the 26th, been pretty much a month of work. What are your thoughts?
The other day at work, I got a 2-star rating, which was super annoying. So at our work, the clients can like rate you 1 to 5, and 3, 4, 5 is all good, whatever. A 2 to 1 is considered a negative review, and it kind of goes against your record. So if you have like 3 negative reviews, then your managers kind of talk to you, and you may be ineligible for certain benefits and stuff.
And I think I saw as well that if your average rating, someone was saying if your average rating gets to like 4.2, and if you don't have reasons for why you got those negative reviews, you're kind of like, you're at risk of not having a contract renewed.
Yeah. So I got a negative review the other day, and my manager comes to talk to me, and he's like, so have you had any classes that you think have gone bad? And I honestly couldn't think of any. But then he said that there was a client who said that you didn't write enough notes for him. Because at our work, we have to write notes for our clients. And I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, I didn't write enough notes. And that kind of caught me by surprise, because I couldn't remember that at all. But anyway, we kind of talked about it, and I was like, oh, good. And then he gave me some pointers on how to write more notes. And then when I actually checked on it, it turns out that this was a client who literally came... So the lesson is 40 minutes long. He literally came 30 minutes late, and we had 10 minutes
Which is like the last 5 minutes of the lesson in like our company. You're meant to spend literally reviewing the lesson. So you're meant to go onto and give the lesson, like you're meant to like write a comment with them sitting there watching, being like, today your strengths were, you did a great job having a conversation with me and using perfect grammar. Areas to improve are, let's try work on that confidence or something. So you do that with them sitting there in the last 5 minutes.
I was so annoyed because I've had 2 negative reviews, and both of them have been bullcrap. Like that one, complete bullcrap, and then my first one was... the guy didn't like that I taught him movie night. Like the phrase movie night.
Which was relevant for the textbook that you were teaching. It wasn't like random, right?
Yeah, because he was like, what do you do on Friday nights? And I was like, oh, well, you could have a movie night. And he was like, what's a movie night? And then I told him what's a movie night. And then, bam, negative review. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they have the rating system. It's kind of like, it's to hold you accountable. It's to make the clients feel as though they're guaranteed to get the best lesson possible. But I also think... Yeah. I think it's kind of bad. Like, I think it's dumb. Like, I think having a student rate a teacher is not necessarily the best way to go about holding teachers accountable. Like, I mean, when I taught at the uni, you have your end-of-year evaluation, which is, I think, like, a better way to do it because it's, like, an overall thing. Imagine if your students had to rate every single lesson you taught at university, like every single lecture you had to go through and be like, today my lecturer was kind of boring. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, I think that they should have like at the end of the month, they ask the clients for their like thoughts on their lessons that month, and if any stood out, then they can give them like feedback. I don't know.
So next week we have our training, which we should have done back in March. So it's like a long time coming. And I'm kind of nervous for it now.
Although I'm nervous for it because the only day so the way they had it was there was 3 days to do the training. One of them was when we were going to be in Nagano. So I couldn't do that. The other one was a Saturday where I already had a couple of bookings. And so the only day I could do was next week's one, where I already have another booking where the client's booked me by name, but it's like the very end of the day. So I'm going to have to go to this full like 10-hour day and then rush to work and teach a class.
Yeah, that's gonna suck for you.
So I'm so not looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a full day of training, but hey, we get 5,000 yen, which is not too much, well, not actually that much for the amount of time we're doing it for, but hey, we're not getting many bookings right now anyway, and they pay for our lunch. Well, anyway, we'll update you about that next week. So that's all we have today. So thank you for listening. Remember to follow us on Twitter at T in Tokyo, and then also I completely forgot, and also on Instagram at T_in_Tokyo. That's it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.